right, folks. It's Thursday, and it's the curse of politics. Here with me, Jenni Byrne and Scott Reid. We've got some rules today. There are no paddles involved. I want to hear nothing about anybody's binge-watching activities. And of course, as always, please hold your applause till the end for everybody.
Oh, no applause. No fucking applause.
Paddles. You can only use your paddle 5 times. Weird sex games. Patrick Brown came right to life. He's like, hey, I'm so glad I showed up for this one.
Oh, Allison, did you watch that last night? Allison Smith from Queen's Park Today is here with us. Hi, Allison.
I did watch it. I was going to sit down with my copy of David and Goliath and listen to Amy Winehouse, but I decided to tune
in. What are you reading, David and Goliath? Oh my God, some of those answers were too much.
Okay. Unbelievable.
Yeah. In the provincial campaign, Allison, what happened yesterday?
I'm preparing what's going to happen today. So this is what I'm going to tell you guys.
All right.
We're going to see Doug Ford today. Doug Ford is going to speak to the media for the first time since Sunday. That's going to be out in Kitchener, and he'll make an announcement. That's at 9:30, and then he's gonna campaign in London, Chatham, Windsor, and Cambridge. I think it's going to be interesting because, in the 3 days since Ford has talked to the media, and the last time it was up in Northern Ontario, so it wasn't as big of an attention getter. A bunch of items have come up that he's going to have to be asked about. So I think he's going to face a tougher set of questions than he has any other time at the campaign. We'll see. He's been pretty good at keeping his cool throughout that. So I am interested to see what he says about the Stephen Lecce slave auction story, because that's a tough one to get around, and kind of seems like something that a party would most likely dump a candidate for if it wasn't, their former education minister. And over in Scarborough, we have Stephen Del Duca. He's going to be talking about mental health, and Andrea Horwath is going out west as well to southwestern Ontario, also talking about mental health, marking International Nurses Day and hitting up Essex. So I think it's funny. The campaigns are kind of following the same map, at least Ford's and Horwath's so far with the going north, and now the going west.
What question would you ask Ford if you got a chance?
I would ask about the Stephen Lecce story. I feel like I went to Western University in the same exact 4 years as Stephen Lecce. He was actually our class student council president. I remember his signs.
Of course he was. Of course he was a student council president.
Believe in Stephen.
I will introduce a junior prom. We're taking the school back.
Yeah, so this is the third election campaign I've followed Stephen Lecce on in my life, believe it or not. I'm just always interested in stuff that was apparently happening at Western that I didn't know about at that time. So,
right, cool. Okay, well, thank you, Allison. Have a good day today. We'll see you tomorrow morning for our week wrap up.
Thanks, guys. PoliticsToday.news for Queen's Park Today's newsletter.
Absolutely.
Boom.
Bye.
Quick and easy. So, by the sounds of that, people are coasting into the...
Wait. Can we spend 1 second on the debate? Can we just break format for a half? Jenni, come on. Tell us about the format of that debate. We're joking, but 15 seconds, the crowd can't cheer. Leslyn Lewis has to talk, about her strange notions of science and the climate. It was just,
everybody wants to debate Pierre, but they can't because he's out of paddles.
I don't actually know how many times you've raised your paddles. There's someone tracking. Wait, no, I'm told now there is no one tracking. So there's 5 paddles. I don't know. Put the paddle out the front of your pants and bark like a seal. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, at least the last part of the debate was somewhat interesting. The first part where the conservative, people were not allowed to cheer or clap At some point you had like security walking around. I was standing at the back of the room, and like you'd clap, and they'd look at you. I'm like, am I going to be dragged the fuck out of here? So yeah, it was a weird format. I think the party should change this for the should change it for the French debate, because I'm not sure how you could have people in 1,000 conservatives in a room in Edmonton, Alberta, and not allow them to talk about Justin Trudeau. And basically, what's your favorite, your favorite book, your favorite movie? Like it was extremely strange. They almost should have just given Tom Clark the mic and let him like talk to the audience for like an hour and a half. Because
that was clearly Tom Clark's opinion. There's no question that Tom felt that's how that was supposed to go down. I got to tell my hair's a little short, so it might not work right now, but I always get mistaken for Tom Clark. I spent 25 years in Ottawa being mistaken for Clark because we're both kind of the same size, and we have like the, kind of boring schoolboy, like parted on the side blonde hair. And at our friend Mike Robinson's funeral, which was awful. We love Mike, David and I. And at our friend Mike's funeral, he was close friends with Tom Clark. Tom Clark basically acted as the MC, gave a beautiful eulogy, spoke at great length. And afterwards, there were drinks at the Met. And this woman came up to me and she held my hand and she leaned in close and she said, I just want you to know how much I feel for you. I know how close you were with Mike, and you spoke so beautifully today, and I loved you on TV for all those years. You were terrific. And I had no choice. It was one of those situations where I realized that she thought I was Tom Clark. I had to continue to pretend throughout the entire funeral reception that I was Tom Clark. People be coming up to me, calling me Scott Reid, and she'd be like looking, like, why are they calling you by the wrong name? And I had to pretend to be Tom Clark the whole night. And I'm just awfully glad that I wasn't pretending to be Tom Clark last night, because it looked, weird.
No, it was weird. I'll end it by saying, like, it was so much weirdness, so not a real debate. The Conservative Party definitely does not deserve kudos for that monstrosity. But like, even at one point, Charest got booed for an answer, and Tom took 10 seconds off of Pierre's next answer.
I know.
It was my favorite. Just Pierre Charest dynamic is becoming so hysterical now. It's like I'm going to debate Patrick Brown. Pierre said that at one point. This might have been a deliberate tactic. I'm going to debate Patrick Brown. So then he's talking to Patrick Brown, but he just shits all over Charest the whole time, right? It's like, what's your vision of Canada? Freedom to take our country back, freedom to ignore science, freedom to piss in the face of a former premier. I'm talking about you, Charest. Like, it was great. I love the dynamic between them. It's bordering into kind of, a nice hate stew. It's really fun to watch.
It was a strange night. Strange night. I can't imagine that anybody involved loved it,
except for Tom Clark.
Yeah, maybe except for Tom Clark. I want to expand a little bit on the theme I was talking about earlier this week. The broad topic here is our presenting sponsor, TELUS, and their ESG commitments: environmental, social, and governance. The thing I want to dive in a bit more is TELUS's deep devotion to ESG accountability and how that springs from the way they govern themselves. They have a 5-word mantra in their culture: what gets measured gets done. A mantra like that comes with expectations. TELUS measures and reports on all their ESG targets: carbon reduction, community giving, reducing and diverting waste materials, and a long list of other environmental initiatives. But where does that kind of commitment, that kind of focus, come from? Good governance, like any living, breathing, successful thing, is about adaptation and evolution. If a board of directors doesn't reflect and exhibit the skills or the sensitivity for doing business in a sustainable way, it just isn't going to happen. Having the right people matters. The skill sets of TELUS's board members have now been updated. New and now codified is that they must include environmental, social, and governance-related expertise. Also codified, the importance of diversity and equity as part of TELUS's commitment to ensuring that its board reflects the communities they serve. After all, it's the TELUS board that determines where they'll invest the company's time and money, and precisely what actions get measured and then reported on. So all the more reason to ensure that it is as broadly representative of Canada as possible. It reflects a couple of other things. The changing nature of their business and their commitment to the issues that matter to their customers, communities, and the planet. You can read more about all of that and more in their sustainability and ESG report at telus.com/sustainability. Okay, provincial campaign.
Yeah.
Sounds like nobody's trying to change the dynamic of things very much today, so we're kind of drifting into the debate next week as the next big event here. Where we're at in this campaign is the war room scandal phase of this campaign, mostly around candidates. So let's start with the candidate thing. So the Liberals have had to dump a couple of candidates in the last couple of days. Yesterday, Scott, you must have been very upset because you've been a fan of rebreathing for years now.
Yeah,
right?
I'm much undersubscribed theory. This is where gay comes from. It's all about it's about the inhaling and exhaling. Obviously, what can you say? So, and they're like, our vetting didn't catch it. Our vetting didn't catch it. We didn't have the gay breathing question on our form. That's we'll have to add that.
It was only a book he read. He wrote like 4 years ago. He also looks as I wonder how old the picture they used in the Star article was, because he looks like the Crypt Keeper.
So I think it's not a good riding for the Liberals.
My neck of the wood, Hastings, Frontenac, Langston.
Nomination was not hotly contested. What happens in a campaign when
he was from Perry Muskoka, Scott?
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was H. So who is it in? Isn't there somebody under fire in Hastings, Frontenac, Langston, Acton?
No, the other guy they got rid of was Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah.
All right, well, forget it. I'm not paying very close attention. I was watching the paddles. Sorry.
There's the slap my nuts guy. And that was from Sault Ste. Marie. Right. And then there's the rebreathing guy, and he was from Parry Sound, Muskoka, home of Bobby Orr, among other things.
Who was straight.
No rebreathing.
No.
But in any event, so you're in a campaign and it's past the nomination deadline, and you have a candidate that something like this has come up in their past. The first thing is there's a debate about, do you have to get rid of them, or can you let this thing blow by? And that's a combination of an assessment of how serious the offense is and what the public impact is going to be. And then when you have to get rid of them, it's a question of how you do that. How destabilizing, Jenny, is this to a campaign? Happens to everybody, every campaign, but how destabilizing is it?
It happens. Yeah, I don't think I've been part of a campaign where we've not lost someone at like before the filing deadline. At least before the filing deadline, you have the chance to get someone else in there. Today is the filing deadline for all the campaigns. I assume that if it was the Tories that dropped the story for Parry Sound Muskoka yesterday, they were probably trying to just blunt step on the story on Stephen Lecce, because if I'd been them without that story, I would have done it today, made it harder. There's nothing worse than losing a candidate after the deadline, and by losing one, you can disavow them, but they stay on the ballot. There's nothing you can do. Look at Kevin Vo or whatever his name is in Spadina, Fort York. He's my MP, David. I think yours as well, and they disavowed him, but he stuck on the ballot and won. And so it is destabilizing. It's usually looking back on these incidents. It's less it feels less bad than what it is. But when you're in the moment and you're dealing with it at the time, it feels like there's nothing else in the world that you have to deal with. It's usually all encompassing, because you're also, depending on what it is, you're scrambling to get facts. You're trying to call locally. You're probably trying to call the candidate in question who is avoiding you. It's not pleasant. Like in 2008, we lost.
I hate the conversation with the leader.
Yeah,
that's the how did you not know this, all that kind of stuff. So in 2008 we lost some candidates and we had some candidate eruptions, and in our war room, so in the internal war room, the comms issues management war room, we had this giant whiteboard where it was everything mapped out for the day, the week, the month, and we on the side, the workplace accidents, how many days without an accident. We had days without an apology, and I think we got up to so 3. Good. There was one poor bastard who basically got all of a sudden we're sitting there, we have a candidate eruption. I just walk in, look at him, and he gets up and he rubs out 2 and he writes 0.
That's all great. I'm with Jenni. I mean, one of the things is that there's a Doctor Who TARDIS effect. To the outside world, maybe these things don't seem that big, but within the campaign, they create a big kerfuffle. So they absorb a lot of resources. It is a calendarized thing. I mean, the war rooms pump these things out on the eve of the deadline so that you're stuck and you can't withdraw. So that you're going to get that deluge then. And as Jenni says, then it absorbs a bunch of time and resources. People scramble around. I think it puts a lot of pressure, oddly enough, on Leaders Tour, because what happens is it's astonishing how much of a suck it takes up inside campaign headquarters. And so the Leader Tour has to just kind of go, okay, we're just going to choose to ignore all that shit. We're going to have to answer some stupid question when we get off the bus here next in Kingston or whatever have you about rebreathing or whatever the hell the candidate eruption is. But the leader's bus, the leader's plane has to just kind of plow through while headquarters goes crazy for about 4 hours on its own. And it's harder when it's a Lecce, right? It's harder when it's someone that you don't, as Allison said, where you don't have the luxury of just saying, forget it, whatever, it's curtains. We hate to lose the candidate in this, but whatever, we're not going to win that riding anyway, whatever. But Lecce, you're going to have to answer questions for a couple of days. You're going to have to sort of, he's going to take punches on it. Your ability to platoon him around the province now has been robbed. It's not going to turn the course of the campaign or anything, but it knocks people off balance.
So, I mean, seriously, on the Lecce thing, hasn't Brownface pretty much eliminated young, exuberant college weirdness from being a problem for you?
Well, I don't think you can compare Trudeau and blackface and Lecce's auction. I remember these things happening.
Only their rationales, which is that they were young and didn't think about it. And
there's a different thing. I remember being in public school or high school, or it was either the early part of high school, and I cannot remember what the events were called, to be honest. I have no idea, but I know this stuff happened where the grade 12s would auction off to the rest of the school, and girls would hire the guys to carry their books around and stuff. I know this makes seem all very old and saying it. I honestly have no idea what it was called. But there is I don't think you can compare the two, but David, I agree with your point. I think this is going to end up being a nothing burger. I can see why the Liberals pushed it out. I think, Lecce came out pretty quickly and apologized for it in terms of dealing with it. But yeah, I think that if I were the Liberals and you're looking if you want to how you want to feel today, as if you look at the quote on the top of Allison's report, or Alan S. Hale's report for Queen's Park Today from the Toronto Life article, saying that Stephen Del Duca is a cross between Daddy Warbucks, which I think is very generous to him, and Dr. Bunsen Honeydew, who I know we were talking before we went live, who knew that his last name was Honeydew, and who knew that it was based on the fact that his head was the shape of a honeydew melon.
I thought he was manly. Well.
No, that's Beaker. That's
that's Beaker,
yeah.
Right?
Beaker and Dr. Bunsen and Beaker are totally two different people.
Well, I don't know. I feel like an idiot. A couple of things, I guess, on this. One, I do think they're a lot more comparable. I don't think you can distinguish between them that easily, other than the fact that one is the leader, and that's a big deal. But, I think, it's going to be tempting for the Liberals to pound away on it. And if you can get 1 or 2 or 3 days of media out of it, you know how this thing ends, right? This thing ends where it sort of pitters out. The Premier will eventually speak on it. That will be today. They won't dump them. And the game for the Liberals is, limited to this. Conservatives constantly talk about hypocrisy. Everybody's a fucking hypocrite, according to Conservatives, right? You don't do this. You fly in an airplane, but you're against climate change and blah, 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 blah. So they're going to play the blackface in reverse. They're going to say, you guys, you make passing reference to blackface, brownface constantly, and yeah, here you go, and you're going to defend it this time. So all that will happen. That's where they're going to try to get a little bit of political action. It's almost, it's kind of intramural. We'll pay attention to it. Media will pay attention to it. It will force the leaders tour to respond to it. And then 2 days from now, it will move on. Does it really make a big mark? I'm not sure. It's probably uncomfortable. Lecce probably affects his political career slightly, but that's where they're going to go on it, right? They're going to your question about brownface is the pertinent one, right? They'll try to turn it back around the other way and go, oh, well, you howled about that. But where does it go ultimately? Not that far.
Ontario is facing an historic housing affordability crisis, probably the worst in our province's history. Right now, if you get in your car and drive down a 400 series highway, you'll find 10 local markets where the average price of a home exceeds $1 million. Even in small towns like Kawartha Lakes and Fenelon Falls, the birthplace of the Curse's own Jenni Byrne, an average priced home is over $800,000. So when 46% of Ontario home buyers say that they are looking to move outside the province to find a new home, you can see why. Our original sponsor, the Ontario Real Estate Association, says years of bad policy, a lack of supply, increased demand, and rising costs are to blame. If we don't do something about it now, home ownership may be out of reach for an entire generation of Canadians. That's why this June election, realtors are calling on all parties to reduce costs for first-time buyers, get more supply into the market, and end exclusionary zoning rules that keep middle-class families out of growing neighborhoods. You'll be hearing a lot more from Maria over the next several weeks about Ontario's housing affordability crisis and what can be done to fix it, because Maria wants to see more young people become homeowners, and that starts with building a home for everyone. Read Oria's plan at ahomeforeveryone.info. So is it worth doing? Let's go to that.
Well,
Is it worth doing? Is this ultimately going to move any votes, or are we going to have spent 2 or 3 days on something that's really just not relevant, and people aren't going to vote on it, and it's not going to affect the shape of the campaign? And if you're the opposition parties, this is starting to look like another lost week, right?
Well, I'll jump in then, Jenny. I'll say this, because this is where I think we're at the Sargasso Sea part of the campaign. You've got the first debate over, you got the first week over. Nothing is really happening, and you're stuck in the middle of the ocean, and it doesn't feel like there's any wind, right? Like, I was out last night, and I talked to some people about the campaign. I am not kidding around. Like, half the people at the table were unaware that there was a provincial election campaign going on. And I mean, it's just that fucking quiet out there. So there's what we talk a lot about how there's no appetite for change. There's not a big sense of anger. But one of the byproducts of that is people aren't even, because of that, in 2018, people knew there was an election campaign. Now, people, it's not on people's grill. It's not on their doorstep. And, I think it's a really interesting question that you put, David. Of course, the war rooms are going to put out this Lecce story, or Lisa McLeod and her, riding executive giving her a financial allowance and all that kind of stuff. But does this stuff and then Del Duca's commenting on it. I'm not sure you can afford of course you want to put that stuff out there, war room it, get Ford talking about it, get him off his message. But if it takes you off your message, assuming that you have a message, then, Del Duca's quote of the day yesterday was, listen, I don't really think as a white man, it's my place to comment on whether or not the apology is adequate. That's a shit day for you, okay? You did not advance the ball. You did not move yourself down the field in terms of your objectives. Why do people need to unelect Doug Ford? That's what you got to be doing every day, and it didn't happen yesterday. And my guess is it ain't going to happen today.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Listen, I see why war rooms do it. I see why they push it out. That's the Hail Mary of, will the other war room blink? Will they get rid of a candidate? As we said, these things can throw a campaign. These things can throw a campaign off their game. But you do have to make the calculation as to when you're going to, as to if you're going to do it and when you're going to do it. Because Scott, I agree with you. It's not like it was any. It was a good story, or it helped the Liberals in any stretch in terms of doing this. But this is kind of the art of politics as to if you do something and when you do it. I do think these kind of gotcha clips on candidates, you've seen a real change, I think, in the last kind of couple of years. And I'm not saying serious allegations. I'm talking about like the social media issues. There was a real point in, kind of 2006 to 2010 or 11, where it was a gotcha. If someone did something on Facebook, when it first came out, it was like, damn the torpedoes, get rid of this fucking guy. But I found over the last kind of 4 or 5 years that there's been a real change. You watch it not just even in Canada or Ontario, but around the world. The kind of gotcha stuff from past social media posts are becoming less and less relevant. People are more forgiving. More people are on social media. More people probably, go back and realize that they've posted or done something that they regret. And I, every time something, like on social media comes up, I know my friends and I will message each other and go, fuck, are you not happy that we didn't have social Facebook or Instagram back in high school or like university?
Oh my God. I would be in solitary. It'd be awful. I'd be in that Hannibal Lecter thing where they have you chained to the thing and you can't move nobody in your teeth can't get anything. It would be bad. I go back to, obviously a war room is going to want to put out stuff and they're going to chew out stuff. But, I have this like panicking wave watching this campaign and going like, it's Thursday. Before you know it, it's going to be week 3 of this election. And I don't think that anybody has made Doug Ford do or say something he doesn't want to do since this campaign began. He'll answer a question today about Stephen Lecce, but that's not going to alter the course of the campaign. So fine to do it, but so maybe it's an achievement to take him off stride, but only if you insert something in the message that he's not therefore going to provide that helps move voters. And I just think the opposition, yesterday talking about healthcare for the Liberals, it's fine, if you're trying to prove to people I can be premier, but you got to prove to people that the existing premier doesn't deserve to have that job any longer. And we just harp on this every day, but I feel like I don't get what it's supposed to do. So yesterday was $1 billion for surgical backlog. Politicians and this fucking money, it just drives me crazy. Do any of you have any idea whether $1 billion is enough money to do that? Too much money? Like, what is the significance of $1 billion in that context? I've got no idea. And now today's mental health. Now, this is just as important as this is in Ontario, and we've talked about this through the pandemic, mental health. I've had people on from CAMH. I'm not dismissive of mental health, but this is not a wedge issue in this campaign. This is not going to be the reason most people vote for one party over another. So it's another fucking wasted day. Why are you organizing your tour around your platform as opposed to organizing your tour around your message, which is why Ford has to go? Why are you having a mental health day? Search me. You can hear the discussion. We've all been in campaigns. You can hear the discussion as people are talking about it and going, well, hey, circle May 13th or whatever today is, May 12th on your calendar and make sure, because it's International Nurses Day or Mental Health Day. And so we'll have to make certain that that's our day. And, now don't forget next Wednesday is Hydrogen Day. So we're going to have to talk about our fucking, our Zeppelin policy or something, and it's like, Jesus Christ, man, like, shouldn't our days be dictated by what's it take to like knock these guys down? There've been a spate of polls in the past couple of days, including Greg's, and everybody basically has Ford at 38, 39, or 40%. And
somewhere between 8 to 12 points ahead.
Cruising with his cigarette out the window, just flicking the ash.
Yeah. All right. So let's go right to our blessing and our curse. What do we got?
Well, I guess my curse, and this is kind of it's kind of a curse and a hey you kind of all wrapped up to. I'm bringing the hey you back for this, and this is to the debate organizers for the debate that's coming up. We've got another debate next week, I think it is Tuesday or what have you. Is for the love of fucking God, do not let the moderator turn this debate into themselves. We saw it. Like I saw it last night. Conservatives saw it last night with the conservative leadership debates here in Edmonton. You look at the federal election last year. The one debate was actually the entire story was made basically brought on by the moderator in terms of their questioning. It dominated all the coverage. It's what basically everyone was talking about. No one is coming out to see you. Like nobody's coming out to watch the moderator. And so I would ask if the debate organizers can ensure that this is supposed to be a debate between the candidates. Let it be a debate between the candidates, because nobody gives a flying fuck what the moderators think, feel, or want to say.
That's a good one.
It was fucked up to watch that thing last night. It was ridiculous. Right? I mean, here's the most important subject question I could ask you. You've got 15 seconds. Like, what are people thinking when they put that together? Fuck.
Just enough time to say Paul Brandt, which, by the way, was the weakest, lamest answer the whole goddamn night, Jenny, and you can't even quarrel with it. Playing to the crowd. Good Lord. Come on. No one's listened to a Paul Brandt song, maybe ever.
Actually, all
I
those.
like Paul Brandt.
All those answers.
Jesus Christ. Quit repping.
All those answers were hilarious. I'm reading a book about Russia. I couldn't tell you the name of it.
I don't know. It could be. Right.
I'm so annoyed with this question. That came off of charade more than anything. I can't believe you're asking me this fucking question.
No kidding.
Something lame. About Russia. I don't fucking know.
What are you binging right now? I'm a load of bullshit. My curse is for the 3 Ps. This is an extension of our conversation there. My curse is the 3 Ps: policy, platform, positive. I've had enough of them. Okay, opposition leaders, Del Duca, NDP, no more policy, no more platform, no more positive. Pick up a club, get to a microphone, start swinging it, whatever it takes. But if you guys don't have something penetrating and negative to say about Ford, you're going nowhere. And it's just mind-boggling. And I don't care what your policy is on, harbors and Thousand Islands. I just don't. Okay. So you've got to make the case for change. Policy, platform, positive. People convince themselves, well, it's the first 10 days of the campaign. We're going to ground it by demonstrating to people that we're responsible. We'll position ourselves at a basket of issues. Then people will see, okay, well, we're an accepting and welcoming destination. No one has heard the real consequences. No one knows what you're talking about. No one has heard about it. No one knows you exist. No one knows your campaign exists. It's going nowhere. And there is no such thing as advertising anymore. It's just absent. I mean, other than Ford having some, get her done ads on Hockey Night in Canada, it's like there's no such thing. So you're not talking to anybody. You're just literally yelling into your hand, and it's got to stop.
What's happened to advertising? When's the last time either of you have you seen an ad recently for the provincial campaign?
Yeah, hockey. The last hockey game I watched Monday night, I guess it was.
Right, but other than hockey, I don't see anything anywhere out of anybody, even online. Okay, my it's probably a curse. Goes out to Mike Schreiner, who I like so much, and I think he's a super nice guy, thoughtful man, who so far in this campaign has thoughtful things to say about everything that's going on in the campaign. However, Mike, you're the leader of the Green Party. And as I understand it, there's a climate crisis going on, and the world is drifting toward an extinction level event, and nobody in this Ontario campaign is talking about it at all. And in fact, nobody has a serious policy about it in Ontario. And I would have thought that was your job. And I would like it to be your job because I think it's a hell of an issue. So start talking about climate change and start fucking forcing the parties to come to the table with something serious about climate change. The Green Party is here at an existential moment in human history and it needs to start talking about climate change, in my view. All right, everybody. Thank you very much.
Folks, nobody likes the climate more than me, folks. Nobody. I mean, you ask the climate. Nobody's for the climate more than Doug Ford. Always been for the climate.
Tomorrow, David, I want to respond to your curse tomorrow.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, all right. Excellent. In the meantime, I'd like to thank the both of you for being here, obviously, especially Jenni at such an early hour out in Edmonton. So thanks for making the effort, Jenni. I really appreciate it. And thank you to our presenting sponsor, TELUS, and to the Ontario Real Estate Association for their support of this podcast. All you accursed, we're back tomorrow, and maybe something will have happened. Talk to you then.